All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this tournament showdown. It's going to be myself and the Chaos Dwarves with a Sorcerer Prophet facing off against Slaanesh, who's going to be helmed by Boss Toss. And it looks like old Azazel, of course, is very good, a good assassin. He can snipe the Chaos Dwarf artillery, he can hunt down the trains. As Pavane of Slaanesh, just an all-around great character in this matchup. And even if you do go with Deathstreak rocket launchers, I find that he's a small enough target that with proper juking and his 100 speed, you can usually evade those shots, despite the heat-seeking missiles. But for my build in the Vanguard, it is going to be Hobo Goblins. You kind of have to contest the mobile game because if you don't against Slaanesh, what happens is they triple cap you right away. They're up to 300-400 points before you can start getting objectives, and then they just bounce between objectives and win on points. It's really, really brutal. So you have to bring some hobos, in my opinion. For the core, it's going to be Dwarf Warriors with great weapons in case they went Hell Scourge. We do have some hobos who are going to be advancing up to hunt down the Marauder Horsemen and the double Pain Trains. So Iron Demons are really, really nice in this matchup if you give them the Hellforge ability. So Hellforge is right here, somewhere in the tooltip. There it is. No, Perfect Vigor comes from Hellforge or Hellbound. So this gives them physical res, which, isn't useless in this matchup. Obviously not the best, but the main thing is you're getting magic damage against demons and Perfect Vigor, which is really good on single entities. So that's going to be it. One of them is going to be the Demon's Tongue, which has the flamethrower on the front, and a Metalcaster is going to be our Lord. Now for Boss Toss on the other side, he's going to be rocking Marauder Horsemen of Slaanesh. Looks like it's going to be two of those and two on the other side. A wide army, so rather than using the very popular Hell Scourge, is going to be using Marauders, which against Dwarfs is the correct idea. You don't want to go elite because they'll punish you with their magmas and things like that. And of course Azazel with some ambushers in the woods. Looks like more Hell Scourges, just super, super wide. And obviously there's going to be a metric, a ton of mobility being called in here soon. As you have a little bit of loose skirmishing, the Hobgoblins usually will out-skirmish Marauder Horsemen just because they have 140 range, so it does give you a slight advantage in the skirmish department, but you can see we're kind of exchanging objectives here, but my opponent is going to be getting to the point. Meanwhile, the Demon's Tongue and the other old scary Iron Demon are going to be cruising for a bruising, moving up, looking to run down some of the devoted Marauders. Maybe going to be able to get a catch here, but we will have to see. So Hobo Goblin Riders do arrive on the point, and we do get some decent Hobgoblin firepower on the Marauder Horsemen. But overall, Azazel is now approaching. Spells for Azazel are going to be Lash, Acquiescence, so he has the DPS spell as well as the debuff spell, and then you don't leave home without Pavane. Pavane is just such a game-changing ability that you gotta bring it. So our Dwarf Warriors do arrive to the point. Your infantry in this matchup are really bad. Unfortunately, Dwarf infantry get wrecked by Slaanesh because of the Fiends and the Seekers and just so much cost-effective armor piercing they have. It becomes a very, very dodgy situation for them. So going to be trying to contest the middle a little bit. The Marauder Horseman can do some good work against my Pain Trains. You can see he does kind of dodge the flamethrowers that shot at the edge of the formation here. But the Iron Demons are unleashing a Hellish Salvo, and hopefully we'll be able to get a little bit more value here. But you can see I do use all power ahead, all steam ahead to try and get away from the Marauder Horsemen. So going to be retreating back while we call in some Infernal Guard Fireglaves in the back. Fireglaves are just kind of a utility piece to make sure your opponent doesn't swarm on you too hard. And we do get a Pavane cast on us on the Demon's Tongue. So this is dangerous because I'm rampaged and he has Seekers. So his whole game plan is to lure me into a bad engagement and then surround me with his Seekers. Meanwhile, I do use the Bale Taurus to try and screen him out, and the Iron Demon here, the Demon's Tongue, roasting those devoted Marauders. Well, I saw him running in a very kind of scattered pattern, so we do a timing attack here. I figured this would hit a lot of units. So this is going to be the Searing Doom, and here it comes, the big bombard. That was a fat value train right there. We hit a lot of the Horseman models, also pound these infantry. That was probably one of the better engagements we've had in the game so far because he has done a lot of damage against my trains and I don't have the healing. Down here, we also get in a very precarious situation. One of the Iron Demons does get surrounded by the Seekers of Slaanesh, and they're very, very powerful. They hit super hard and actually have reasonable melee defense for, what they are. And I do have to sacrifice a lot of my Hobo Goblins to save this Demon's Tongue, or this Iron Demon. The Demon's Tongue is the other one. So very, very scary. And also my Sorcerer Prophet gets attacked. And man, I was really shocked at how much damage I was taking from the Slaanesh units. Putting my melee defense down super low. The Bale Taurus unfortunately takes a very, bad attack angle there. And the Chaos Dwarf Warriors aren't going to be doing a whole lot of damage here. So I do respond with the Final Transmutation, which is going to be nailing a couple units. We do manage to hit the Devoted Marauders as well as the Seekers, and the Demon's Tongue and the various Chariot trains are going to be trying to escape now, as the Infernal Guard Fireglaves is going to be rotating away from the threat, and the Magma Cannon is now in, rotating it to a position where it's going to be able to cover multiple objectives. But certainly not going to be easy, as my opponent does go up to a very respectable lead. Having gotten my Sorcerer Prophet very low, looking like it could be a very, very quick game for me here. It certainly felt that way. But Seekers are on the way in, Marauder Horsemen as well. We do crumble some of the Seekers here in the back with the Demon's Tongue, and now we're going to be pushing in, and hopefully with the charge impact and the magic damage. With a couple Dwarf Warriors still there, maybe we'll get some work done, but I saw just a massive horde of Slaaneshi heretics here. I guess we're all heretics a little bit, although, Chaos Dwarves, I guess they're heretical, right? If you're looking from the Dwarf perspective, but they kind of do their own thing. Like if you look at the lore of the Chaos Dwarves, like certainly they serve the will of Hashut, but they also they enslave demons to their will. Like apparently, I think it's part of the lore that generic like Chaos Undivided demons like hate the Chaos Dwarves because the Chaos Dwarves will capture their essence and force them into their demonic engines against against their will there. So certainly pretty heavy metal for sure. The other Chaos factions are, really at the will of the demons and the gods, but the Chaos Dwarves kind of, they're in charge of their destiny to an extent. Of course, they still are followers of the Dark God, so there's going to be limits. I don't know what 2 words I was thinking of, but limits on their free will there. But Sorcerer Prophet going to be scooting around while the Infernal Guard Fireglaves do put some respectable firepower down, but they are going to be attacked by the Seekers, and Seekers will hit very hard. Fireglaves, of course, do have the halberds. They take 3 models. They lose 3 models on impact. But then the Magma Cannon comes in with a steel chair and cooks those Seekers. And we do countercharge with this unit here. The Hobgoblin Seer Riders should try and get a little bit of work done. But I'm definitely on the back foot, 3.9 against 5.5. But you never want to give up. This isn't that big of a value difference. But my Lord here getting Pavaned is very, very hard. But, he's still got a bit of HP. And every time my opponent casts a spell, he does heal. So when Pavaned goes off, the Sorcerer Prophet is going to be getting heals. And I believe he lands on the ground to try and lure me onto the ground, which is a very good play. So that was very slick, very high-level player from Bastos. He lands on the ground, lures my Sorcerer Prophet down while he's rampage, and then charges me with a bunch of Seekers. So this is going to hurt pretty bad. I do have some Fireglaves nearby, so I tell them to ignore their combat over here and saturate in to give me the anti-large halberd attacks. And they do manage to get in here, and we're going to be dropping a Searing Doom. So despite the fact that we're taking a ton of damage, he does call to Hashut, the Father of Darkness, throw a big bombard there, and we are able to get at least a lot of value on the way out. As the Sorcerer Prophet does get put in the can, we are able to get, arguably 2,000 value off those Seekers right there by killing both of them. And they were more or less full health. So I am down on value, 6.3 against 7.4, but with Demonic Disintegration in play, we're probably actually even on value at this point. I still do have the 2 Pain Trains. The Infernal Guard Fireglaves are able to stabilize. Unfortunately, Azazel is going to be hunting, and I do have my archers kind of sitting under him, getting some respectable damage, while the Magma Cannon is still online, shooting at God knows what. I think it was trying to shoot at some of the Devoted Marauders, but they were in a weird position here. But my opponent does have all the objectives, unfortunately, so I am very, very kind of stuffed back on that. But this is the time to try and get our way back in the game. We're only down 700 value, and more than 700 value has for sure disintegrated from my opponent in terms of Demonic Disintegration, so that's something a lot of people don't really, take account of. Now, this is another unit that's super good in this matchup. It is the Kadai Fireborn. Kadai Fireborn are absolute chads. They're going to be moving in with their anti-infantry and their magic and fire damage, so really relevant here with the magic damage. They will actually trade pretty well into Fiends of Slaanesh, even though Fiends themselves do magic damage, so it's kind of like a demon-on-demon trade, but I find that having a couple Kadai in your build is super necessary. So here we have the Demon Train still going strong. Demon's Tongue just barely alive with 400 HP. The Iron Demon here going to be popping all steam ahead. More power, and does manage to squeak away from some of the Fiends, thankfully. It was a very, very dodgy fight for him. Azazel's pretty beat up here, but I do manage to escape with those units, and the Kadai Fireborn just wreck those horsemen, so they are able to tear through their prey. I love when these kind of units are good. They really just got to get the Destroyer online, then we're in our happy place. But, in another life. So in the backfield, the Hobo Goblins are going to be poking. Unfortunately, he does get Seekers in. Seekers are incredibly hard to deal with for Chaos Dwarves. You can't shoot them with your missiles. Death Shriekers can do okay work against them. And honestly, a Death Shrieker isn't a bad choice in this matchup. I'm really more of an enjoyer of Magma Cannons because of the leadership discouragement. They're really good at routing off Marauder Horsemen, which are one of the big issues. And they're also really good at dealing with demons because they make their leadership tank and can lead to disintegration before their time, which is huge value city. So on this objective, we are fighting for it pretty hard. Looks like we might be able to get our clutches on it. The Magma Cannon coming into the back here of the Devoted Marauders. And the fact that these trains are both still functional is really big for me because they come in, they drop some shots, they do some great impact damage. This one's at 63 HP, so really not going to be long for this world. But it does get one more Flamethrower salvo, it looks like, into the back of the unit. Going to be retreating now as Azazel does see them. And we do manage to secure this point. So objective 3 is going to be in the hands of Hashut, as we do get pursued pretty heavily back here, swarming the Fiends of Slaanesh using our Haggard Hobo Goblins. And you see what I'm saying about the leadership discouraging? These guys might not have crumbled as quickly, right? But now they're at negative 28. It's a cascading effect. They're losing HP, and we do get those Fiends offline. So we pull the value lead for the first time in the game. So coming back from a 2,000 value lead, my opponent does go for the kill on my Magma Cannon, which is certainly a smart choice. And now we're going to be rushing objective 2, but Slaanesh is one of the best factions in the game at bouncing between objectives, and Slaanesh I would say is a top 5 faction right now, though. Very, very good. Incredibly powerful. So advancing up are the Kadai Fireborn and the Hobgoblin Archers, just looking for opportunities to grab objectives. I do have some sneaky Spec Ops Chaos Dwarves here with the Great Open, so unfortunately they're going to lose to pretty much everything on the Slaanesh roster except the Marauders. But you know, it's what I got. I didn't have any other options to call in, so sometimes you just got to pay the troll toll. So we do take this fight here. Hobo Goblin Riders fighting the Marauder Horsemen, but we do get the reinforcements of the Kadai saturating in, getting a couple shatters actually, at least one shatter, and routing some of the units. So now we're starting to get on the board in terms of points, and this was the first time in the game I felt like I could actually win, because man, I was getting crushed earlier on. You know, the Balesaurus character dying that early was rough, but you know, when the Balesaurus did die, he took like 2,000 gold with him. So that was pretty big, right? Because the Balesaurus character with the kit I brought cost 2,500 gold, so he kind of like, you know, paid for himself in that little window. But still, I'm taking the penalty of having my Lord being dead, which is a little bit tricky, right? Fury's clear off the side objective, buttering it up for his Seekers. Seeker's going to be rolling out. In the meantime, we do secure the back point, so the Magma Cannon is stabilized by the 2 Hobo Goblin Riders, and the old Magma Cannon is going to be setting up shop here, getting ready to rip some shots into the Seekers, while we do manage to take the middle objective. And on the high ground, we're also threatening this one. We do have our Chaos Dwarf Warriors, who are going to be in a very rare sighting of a good matchup for them, as they will be able to handle these Marauders pretty easily. Their armor and their combat stats are pretty good, but the main thing is going to be the armor because, you know, devoted Marauders have good stats too, but the armor differential is really massive. And the Demon's Tongue does roll in, sitting at 9 HP, gets nailed by a Fascination, and it finally dies. And that thing was such a machine this game, doing great work. So now it's time for a little bit of Benny Hilling. Like, I actually, despite the value being close, he's probably lost about 1,200 to Demonic Crumbling, if not more. So I feel like I'm, you know, actually ahead here. And the Magma Cannon going to be getting some fat shots right into the Seekers. Direct hit into the Seekers of Slaanesh that are fleeing away. Only doing about 10% HP damage, but the Kadai are quite menacing, and Azazel still cackling around, still being a problem. Now, Chaos Dwarves, of course, are somewhat responsive. They do have some fast units. The Hobgoblins certainly accentuate the roster very, very well. On this side, the Devoted Marauders are going to be battling it out versus the Hobos here, and it looks like they are going to end up losing. So we become pretty, you know, stabilized on Objective 1 here. Now we're going to be hustling over to Objective 3, so we do get our Wolf Riders and our Kadai, and we are going to be taking a fight. The Seekers end up charging in, but they're going to have a bad time. The Hobgoblins will take the beating for the Kadai Fireborn. Then the Fireborn will just do super high magic damage against them, and the Magma shots are brutal too. Even though they are melting a lot of my own units, it's okay. Chaos Dwarves are more than happy to melt their Hobgoblins if it means they win the fight. We do trap up a Seeker as well as a Hellscourge Warrior there, and that feels pretty good. Not Warrior, but a Hellstrider, excuse me. So pulling back is the Iron Demon. The Chaos Dwarf Warrior is going to be hustling towards this objective, and now we have our opponent triple capped, right? So that's pretty big, and the Seekers do lose. These Kadai are just raid bosses. I mean, only 900 value so far, but that was one of the first fights they were actually able to get in there, which is pretty good. Iron Demon here sitting at about 1,100 value, so they cost 1,250 if you Hellforge them. So he's just about paid for himself, and the Demon's Tongue, I think, also was able to get some really nice value this game. Sitting on the high ground objective, Chaos Dwarf Warriors moving up to the point, and now we got Marauder Horsemen being called in. So cue the yakety sax music, because right now, you know, I obviously have the army advantage. I have the artillery online, which is just pounding and generating value. I have a second unit of Fireborn coming out right now, as well as the Iron Demon. So basically, it's just going to be Slaaneshi, you know, kind of Benny Hill yakety sax right now. So we'll do a little bit of fast forwarding while this happens, and I'll do my auction house commentary. So they're able to get up here. They do get to this objective, but the Kadai do arrive in time, and a couple Hobo Goblins called out of reserve are going to be winning the fight. So we do see the Hellstriders getting caught, and, you know, as far as like a straight-up fight, obviously Hellstriders probably would defeat the Hobos, but they were pretty damaged here. So we do stabilize this. So my opponent, like I said, going to be using Yakety Sax now and just going now for Objective 3, while I'm just going to be chasing for the rest of the game. I need to get to the point where I can win on 2 objectives, and then from there, it's just, you know, there's going to be no chance. So he does go for that point. I managed to stabilize the Magma Cannon, calling in the Hobgoblins and the Kadai. So we rush down there, but my opponent, is he going to get the objective? It looks like just barely we hold it. The Kadai Fireborn do arrive, and he doesn't get it. So that was really, really big. Now, I would have captured it back, you know, pretty quickly, to be honest, but that would have made it a lot harder of a game there. So the fact that we held that was a massive one for us. Chaos Dwarf Warriors are here, and I do have another unit of Hobgoblins in the woods, unfortunately, I did forget about. And rotating the Chaos Dwarf Warriors down to this objective, because I obviously know he's going to take advantage of his super fast army and just be bouncing around. So Magma Cannon getting a good shot. Not quite. Swing and a miss. Tried its best. So we're chasing yakety sax music. Cue it in your heads. You guys can do it. I wonder if I could play that on YouTube. Probably could. I think it's like, I don't know if it's like copyrighted or whatever, but I think that's like really old, like super, super old. The Wolf Riders do arrive, and we're going to be trying to fight over this objective, but at this point, it doesn't really matter, because now I'm close enough to him that I can win on just 2 objectives. So it's going to be GG here in a minute. Our Hobo Goblins do come over here, intercept this, and I realize this, so I just kind of fall back to my objective here. I get my Kadai Fireborn, and he's doing a good job value farming because I'm having to chase him around, which is allowing him to isolate. So right now, we're probably actually relatively even on army. The Kadai Fireborn here, unfortunately, probably going to be broken down, but they have gotten about 1,200 value so far. Chaos Dwarf Warriors here are pretty healthy, so they're going to last for a little bit longer, and we passed them to the point now where we could just win on one objective. So I'm just parking the Iron Demon here to make sure he can't get that for free, and we also managed to ninja the high ground point, so that would be a really good insurance as well. So GG, well played. That was an incredibly sweaty game. You know, I've really struggled against Slaanesh pretty damn hard in the past with Chaos Dwarves. But it depends on the map too. If you have a home objective, the matchup becomes exponentially easier. But if it's a side-to-side bowling alley map like that, man, it becomes hard because they're so quick and they can really rotate between the points and do a ton of damage in doing so. So it was scary. 2,300 on Sorcerer Prophet. Despite a poor performance from him, he actually did okay. 800 on the Demon Song. That's rough, right? And then 1,300 here. Kadai 13 and 5, Magma Cannon 1,700 really carried that game for sure, and we were able to get a lot of leadership stuff that I think broke things and disintegrated them, which wasn't really reflected in the damage value here. But for his army, Seekers I would imagine did good. Yeah, 2,200 on that one is pretty nasty. Azazel only got 740, but still was a menace with his magic. GG. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. That was a lot of fun. That was from an SFT tournament. I went undefeated with Chaos Dwarves in the rounds of regulation and then ended up losing in the semis because it switched to a 3x3, so I didn't get to play by Chaos Dwarves. I was like, no, I have to play something else. All I've really been playing these days are Chorfs and Warriors of Chaos. So if people just know to ban those factions in a 3x3, I'm like, oh God, what do I do? Yeah, it was super fun. All right, guys, catch you around. That's it for tonight, and we'll see you on the other side.